feel uptight. I feel all this intense pressure squeezing in on me. I feel like I'm trapped and don't know where to go. I have no direction. What exactly is God's will for me? Why can't I find it? Why is this so hard? Why is God's will like this magical dangling carrot that I can never seem to catch? We often make it harder than it is. Maybe it's because we confuse God's will with my will. We get impatient. We try to pigeonhole the omnipotent creator of the universe to fix us, heal us, help us, and bless us by begging him, or raising our voice to him, or bargaining with him, everything but saying, "Your will be done, not mine." See, we've confused our role in this epic story that's unfolding in front of us. It's not about me, it's about him. I'm not the star of this movie, he is. I've just got a small cameo in this beautiful love story about truth and redemption. That takes the burden off of me. I can focus on making Jesus famous and living a life that points the spotlight to him. I feel better now. I can breathe again.
I have realized that in both loving and giving, I am cautious. I only let go of what is required of me. I only love a little bit at a time, and sometimes not even that much. There is a story in the very beginning of the Bible about us being made in the image of God. We were created by God to look just like him. And more than just looking like him, we were made to be like him, to have his qualities, to have a heart like his, each and every heart handmade by the creator of the universe. We were literally made with love, made by love, to love. So this question, where is the love? I mean, if we were actually made by love with a purpose to love, why is it that we have such a hard time really loving? The way I show love is safe. To the people I know and I know love me. I don't jump at the chance to show love that won't be returned, or that I won't see appreciated. This is also how I give, only to people who I can see with my own eyes are needy. But it's always only my leftovers, only what I already know I'm not going to use or don't need. I I've never joyfully given one of my favorite things away. What if I did? What if I gave away something so valuable? What if I let my heart be stolen? What if I gave my love away freely? What if I realized it wasn't mine to keep anyway? Where is my love?
And every fracture caused by the lack of it. You were a million years of work. See God and his angels with needle and thread. They kiss your head and said, "You're a good kid." And you make us proud. So just give your best in the rest. We'll come and we'll see you soon. And all the blood and all the sweat that we invested to be loved follows us into our room. We begin to understand. Maybe Hollywood was right when the credits are rolled and the tears have dried. And the answers that we have been dying to find are all pieced together, and somehow we are made of love. And all the beauty stemming from it. We are made of love. And every fracture caused by love, caused by the lack of love.
Love. I love the topic of love for one reason. It's one of the few things that man thinks he knows everything about that he knows nothing about. The fact that people will write sonnets and sing stories and sing great ballads and spend a lot of time on this feeling about love or having the feeling of love simply shows how little we really understand the topic, the personage, or the reality of what love is. God is love. That's just the bottom line. Now, love is a fruit of the Spirit of God, and so that's why God is love, because the completeness of what love is contained inside of God. If you want to know what love is, you have to know God. Otherwise, you're dealing with a taste or a touch or a appreciation of the feeling of love. For instance, I'll give you an example. When I drink orange juice, I know what an orange tastes like, or do I? Now, I've tasted of the juice of the orange, but have I appreciated the full spectrum of what an orange is? No, of course not. An orange has orange skin, it has rind, it has meat, so to speak, if it's thickened because of the cold weather. It has pulp, it has seeds, it has a variety of aspects to it that are more than just simply the juice from the orange. The same thing is true with love. Unfortunately, mankind has tried to make the feeling the reality. And that's not what love is. Love is not simply a feeling. That's the action of what love does in response of a person being loved. Because to say a person loves isn't only the feeling of love, but it's the choice to love. It's a decision-making process. It's kind of like marriage. You know, people are arguing right now in our country about marriage, and it's really kind of a stupid argument because, you know, people will say, well, marriage is, you know, marriage is a covenant between God and man, or somehow between man and woman, you know, and God honors it, or whatever they make up. I don't even know their excuses or their arguments anymore because they're so stupid. Marriage is simply a contract. It's a contract between two people. It could be a man and a man. It could be a woman and a woman. It could be a man and a dog. It could be whatever. If two people are making a contract, God holds them to it. That's the way it works. Because if you make a contract, that's the way God keeps track of what you are saying and doing and believing. Now, you shouldn't make a contract between two men, but God will honor it in one way. He'll hold you accountable for it. You said it, so you did it. You reap what you sow. So the contract, as far as society is concerned, is valid as far as marriage as a contract is concerned. Now, that could be called a civil union for the sake of people that don't like words. It could be called any number of things. When God brought a man or brought a woman to man to be his helpmeet, he didn't say, I'm going to make a marriage today and this is what a marriage is. You know, it's going to be, for this cause shall a man leave his mother and a woman leave her child or whatever, and the two shall become one flesh. He didn't say this is marriage. He said this is what a relationship is. This is what is a demonstration of what I'm trying to show you. You know, that when I created you, this is the way I created you to be. This is my purpose and my design. It isn't what I call a covenant. It isn't what I call a contract. It's what I call being. One in the flesh, one in the spirit, one in the Lord. So, using that same analogy, he was using that, male, female, and God, to reveal his nature, Father, Son, and Spirit. So if you have a marriage between a man and a woman and you don't have God in it, guess what? You still don't have a marriage according to what God defines marriage as. You simply have the benefits or the two parts of a three-part system of process of development that God has initiated in his creation. Everything you look at has tripartite. Seriously, you may not know it. And you may not be able to completely find it directly, but if you study this eventually, you're going to say, well, yeah, it's true. Even the Godhead is revealed in creation, so it's a fact. You know, I mean, I guess I'm going to have to reevaluate my interpretations and accept God's explanation. And that's where we get into a problem when it comes to love, or we get into a lot of Bible or evangelical or religious explanations or interpretations. Because instead of having God explain it to us in ways we would understand, often you'll get people tell us what they think is true. And I've read thousands of commentaries and devotionals and ideas that men throw out there about thousands of subjects. And I always find it so shallow, so meaningless, and so purposeless unless it starts with asking God first. God, what is love? And you know, I asked that question, and it's funny because the answer was very simple, but it was deeper than anything I would have ever conceived of, because it was something that I could not wrestle with or put my hands on or get you to accept, even if I say it right now, which I'm going to. I'll tell you what love is. And to put it bluntly, you won't like the answer, because that's what I didn't like. And I didn't like the answer until 40 years later. You know, I've been working on it and teaching it and preaching it and sharing it and daring to tell people you're wrong, you know, as far as knowing the complete picture. What is love? God. That's it. When I asked God, what is love? When I asked the Father, I said, okay, what is love? God said, I am. I went, no, not what's your name. What is love? God said, I am. I went, we have a failure to communicate here. I get your answer, but I don't understand it. And God said, now you get the picture. Okay, now I get it. I don't understand. I don't understand what your answer is, but that is the answer. Now, that's the problem you have with love. God is. That's it. Period. End of story. Now, how that answer works out is so deep, you'll spend eternity figuring out what that means as far as what really God is and what really love is. Because being a fruit of the Spirit, some people say, well, love is peace, joy, meekness, temperance, kindness, gentleness, temperance, it's not provoked, it's not, all the 1 Corinthians 13 things. Well, sort of. Those are characteristics of the nature of love, but is it what love is? God is love. You see, God, even in of himself, is a bad definition we have of what we call our Father. Because Jesus said, look, you've got what you call God, and you've made him out to be some kind of distant relative, that's like way far away and doesn't get involved in anybody except the Jewish nation. At least that's some people's idea. Or he's, started creation, then he stepped back and let it all happen because, now Satan's in control, so guess what? Everything that's bad is Satan and everything that's good is God, so everything else is like, in between, and you just have to work your way through it by providence and circumstance. Kind of like hope for the best and pray that it's rest and you'll get there somewhere, and it's just a test. No. God, according to what Jesus said, beyond your understanding. Now, you won't be able to handle this, but is directly involved in every minute, every second, every nanosecond, every aspect of even me taking one little hair and plucking it from my head, poof, and dropping it to the ground. That's how deeply and how intimately and how personally God is involved in your life. Now, you don't see it, you don't appreciate it, you may not comprehend it, and you may not know it personally. Doesn't change the fact of it, though. You see, that's the problem with what love is. The fact of it doesn't change just because you don't know it. What you'll be doing is learning about it all of creation, all of the days of your life, and throughout eternity. Because God is love, that's only one part of what God is. And I'm amazed at the revelation that I've had in learning these things about what love is as far as God is concerned. Because the more that we get into recognizing that part, that integral individuality and specificity of being connected with God by that entity that we call love, means that we enter into something that is both spiritual, physical, emotional, devotional, intellectual, intelligent. All these things. Everything that creation is what is contained in that idea that we call love. Now you're kind of like, well, what do you mean by that? Well, when God created something and saw that it was good, we say then creation is good. And yet when it was cursed, do we say it was bad? Or does it simply have an aspect to it that's been added to what was good, is still good, but it's got a curse on it, and until the curse be removed, then it's being operating at less than its full potential. Oh, well, okay, I sort of get that. Well, that's the point about love. You can have a certain amount of appreciation of being distant from the reality of love by simply doing your own thing and enjoying it your own way and having your idea of the very distant, absolute, tiny microcosm, little thimble full of love, and say, well, I felt this, my puppy love was so overwhelming that I couldn't stand it. Imagine what real love is like then. Because if real love was demonstrated by Jesus in that he died for the entire world, and that he can love so purely that he can love his enemies as much as he loves his friends, and that he can love his enemies and his friends as much as he loves his Father, whoa, I don't think I know what love is. I don't know what love is, as that song says. And that's a fact, Jack, because you don't. The reality of the experiential knowledge of love is what we usually focus in on. we want the selfish kind of feeling that's emotive or emotional love. And emotional love is simply one aspect of something that's affecting our soul and then permeates our flesh. So because it is obvious to us, we focus in on that. It's kind of like, if I look at that sun right now, if I stare at the sun, then that's going to be the only thing I'm going to see, because it's going to put spots in my eyes, and then everywhere I look I'm going to see sunspots, because the focus was placed upon one part of the sunrise. But the other aspect of sunrise is that I can see shadows and shades, and the way the plants are reacting to the sun, the way they turn towards the sun, the way the weather is changing, the humidity is becoming different, the warmth is beginning to permeate the air is beginning to move as the cold air is turned from cold to warm by the rays of the sunlight coming upon it, and that atmospheric changes that are going on. And all of those are occurring, even the ones that I can't see and the ones I can see and the ones that are affected by what I can't see. All of that is still part of sunrise, or the birds singing, or even some of the flowers beginning to release the aroma of that with which they are able to create scent. All of that happens at sunrise, and that's a part of sunrise. But it's not, if I smelt the aroma of the plants releasing some of their scents at sunrise, as some do, then would that be sunrise? Well, no, that's part of it. That's the effect of sunrise. If I looked at the plants and they were turning towards the sun, would that be sunrise? Well, no, that would be the effects of sunrise. A lot of times that's what love is. We're interested in the effects of love, not what love is. And so we want to examine, as we go through this series, gradually, although there may be other tapes in between that, when we don't have the message or have the time or ability, sometimes I'll put in a little tape, that'll be under love, and it'll maybe not be part of this series, but it works. It's talking about something that you should hear from God in order to train your mind and open up and expand your horizon, so that you'll look at a bigger way of thinking rather than this limited idea of what you think love is. Most of what mankind calls love is selfish. I mean, I've been watching this person that's on the internet recently, a psychologist, a doctor, whatever, does a talk show and does, kind of this thing, but has some personal opinions about love and relationships, and very predictable. And that's the one thing that is fascinating to me about what most people say love is. It's all predictable. In other words, what they call love is very interesting in the sense that it's very self-serving. It's very selfish. It's always about, like, okay, a couple will say, well, we love each other. Well, good, do you love God? Well, yeah. Well, then good. Are you willing to give up your husband for God? No. Or on a good day, or on a bad day, yes. On a good day, no. In other words, if the full spectrum of body, soul, and spirit isn't there in every aspect of love, you don't know what love is. And that's why we examine this, to remind ourselves it's not about only feeling. It's not about only fact. It's not about only choice. It's about the completeness of it. Whether you have a momentary reaction that causes you to feel frustration towards, say, your partner, your lover, your friend, your girlfriend, your child, your mother, your father, your church, your home, your house, your nation, your country, does that change love? Well, yeah, I don't love them anymore. Really? You think so? Or is it that you don't feel like you love them anymore? You see, there's an interesting concept that goes beyond what you're feeling and goes into what God is saying. And that's why we have to reevaluate everything we know about love and start putting it into the proper perspective of how God sees love and how we react to love. Because that's kind of why people don't get it when they say love your enemies. Well, how can I love my enemy? He's my enemy. Of course I can't love my enemy. That's why you don't know what love is. Because the way that you treat the least is the way you'll treat the greatest. So if you treat the least of these in that way, Jesus said, you've done it unto me. So if you don't love your enemy, then you don't love the Lord. Ooh, I didn't think of it that way. Exactly. And that's kind of why it's kind of, it's not a Western culture idea. Western culture wants to dominate, to categorize, to put into a box, and to have some mindset that says, I have this defined, and it's refined, and it's put into my way of thinking, so this is the way that it is. And God says, no, I'm holy, you can't know me. And it's an Eastern culture thought that says, I'm bigger than you are, I'm smarter than you are, I'm wiser than you are, so there's no way that you could ever know me. What little bit I do show you, you need to accept. And there's more of an acceptance by faith or an acceptance by relationship in the Eastern culture idea or mentality than there is in the Western culture. Western culture always wants to scientifically prove or scientifically dogmatically categorize something in day-to-day living. They want to say, well, this is the way it is. Without there being that understanding of the things of the Spirit, then you can't ever grasp the spiritual things that have come into and permeate the physical world we live in. We live in a world that is physical, soulful, and spiritual. Three-partite. The same way that a marriage is husband, wife, and God. The same way that the Godhead is Father, Son, and Spirit. We are not simply entities that are going along with just soulful experiences. Otherwise, we're no better than the dogs and cats. Well, my dog and cat, they really have emotions. No, they don't. I mean, they do in a way. They have a physical body and they got a soul. They react to and are instigated by a soulful response. But they have no spirit. They will not go to be with God when they die. They will go back to the dust from which they came. What their purpose was to be in this world as part of creation. And that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. For God's own pleasure were they created. The same way that you are, except for your eternal existence will continue because you're a spirit. Unless you're not born again. We'll work on that one. You wind up in hell, but I don't want to go there. But love, the more that we begin to open up and turn our eyes back to the source of love, the greater we'll begin to comprehend the fact that we don't know what love is, and that maybe we should ask God for His revelation or His unveiling or His opening up of our eyes, opening of our heart and opening of our ears, so that we would begin to comprehend what love really is. Because I got news for you. Unless God tells you, you're never going to get it. You could play with the idea and say, well, yeah, I agree with you. And then all of a sudden when you fall in love, you're going to say, whoa, those ideas about love went right out the window. No, they didn't. You just fixated on one aspect of it. The completeness of what love is will outlast your momentary circumstances. In other words, how does love exist in a relationship that continues on forever? A person that tells me, well, we've been married 40 years, doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't tell me what love is. It just tells me you're committed. That's all. Committed doesn't make for love. God is love. If I see God in the relationship of two people together, I say, praise the Lord, that's love. But if I see two people together and God is outside that relationship, that's just commitment. It doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't tell me that, these two people love each other, obviously, because they're still married. No, it doesn't. Catholics prove that. Catholics prove that you could be married forever and never love each other. I mean, they do that all the time. Guilt keeps them from divorcing because they're afraid of being condemned rather than commending the better way or the more excellent way of what God is by demonstrating His nature of what He has said He is, and that is love. So you see, it all starts with, turns back to, and is a part of God. God is love. It's always going to be simpler than it looks, and at the same time more complicated than you ever imagined. So as we go through this topic, we'll try to simplify it, but it'll always be more complicated than you ever imagined, because you can't get a handle on it. You never will. You'll always be learning more about it, and you'll begin to agree with how God explains what love is, and what God explains love is, and why he's demonstrated it to us, so that we would not be obsessed with it in the wrong way, in the carnality of it or in the sensuality of it, but that we would begin to incorporate it into all aspects of our life. A guy that tells me he loves football, I have no doubt that he loves football. He probably loves football more than he loves God in that moment. And that if he was given the choices between, hell and heaven, then he might choose to love God more than football. But that's a choice. And that's part of what love is. It really is a choice. But it's a choice that we have to make today to learn more than what we understand or we think we know. Because if you think you already know what love is, you're never going to learn what it really is. You're always going to go about what you think and what you feel, as opposed to what God says love is.
You might say, I don't believe in God, but the Bible says not possible. You see, everyone has a God, whether or not it's the God of the gospel. You might say, I don't believe in God, but there's always that one thing that's king. Even the dictionary defines God as what we make supreme. You see, it's a theme, it's a thread, it's in all human beings. We were made to worship, and it's not just about singing. Some may say, wait, I don't worship, I put that on the shelf. But I say, technically, you worship God or you worship yourself. See, we all worship something. To an object, we're all liable. Ladies, to some, your boyfriend is your God and Cosmo is your Bible. And some guys may walk into church and say, in God I trust, but are secretly addicted to pornography and lust. Yet we mock and we laugh at the Israelites' golden calf. But we do the same thing right back. It just looks a little different than that. So question, what's on your throne? What do you chase so you don't feel alone? What defines you? What gives you worth? What, if lost, would make your heart hurt? You see, this is your God. We've sacrificed deep joy for shallow happiness. To be honest, we look like fools. Like adults splashing around in the kiddie pool saying, wow, this is so cool. Because we're slaves to our possessions, constantly craving something new. Reality check. If you can't give it up, you don't own it. It owns you. That's why worship is not just a behavior, it goes into our core. So ask yourself this, who is your God? Who do you bow down before? For example, some of you don't worship God, you worship what he said. You've got theology in your mind, but in your heart you're naked, pitiful, poor, and dead. But I want to transition. I want to make a spiritual incision. Can you really say that these things are the ultimate purpose of living? I mean, instead of worshiping the creator of you and I, we've all said, no thanks, God. We'll take your stuff, but you can die. But that trade is terrible. Trading God for man. God offers water to our thirsty souls, and we say, but this is such good sand. And I know I'm not the only one who's felt the gnawing pain within. And I know I'm not the only one who's felt the weight of my own sin. But this is the truth. Where we exchanged ourselves for God, thinking we could be him, he exchanged himself for us, absorbing all our sin. I mean, God literally put on flesh. And do you see how we treated him? The ultimate war veteran. He died for our freedom. Nonetheless, he was thinking of you and me with every whip that beat him, knowing full well that one day we'd say, nah, I don't really need him. But like a father, he couldn't bear his children to not be free. So he hung on that tree. He paid that fee for specks of dirt like you and me. So my plea is let him restore his proper place. I promise you, he loves you right now. Just trust in his grace. One final thing. I'll leave you with this. What were those other things that took nails in their wrists? Or when was the last time sex or money forgave you? When was the last time a relationship freed you from what you were enslaved to? See, what else died so you could be made new? When was the last time the world promised satisfaction and actually came through? God offers freedom. The world offers chains, and you'll never beat the odds. You're gonna worship something. Jesus, God's son who took your sin, or some other counterfeit gods.